guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I wanted to do kind of like a chiller get to know me type of video. I've never done like the booktube newbie tag, which I should have done when I started this channel, but I never did. Maybe I will. If you guys want to see that, let me know. But I wanted to do like a video just kind of like getting to know me and my reading and things like that, and I thought this would be really, really fun. And I personally love watching like random facts videos, even if it's people that I don't even know. Like I will watch a like 25 random facts video about them. Like it's just weird. I just love hearing about people's quirks and like what makes them who they are. I just think it's so interesting. So I thought I would do a Bookish random facts video. So I think these are 20 or 25. I hate borrowing books, and I don't like borrowing books, not because I need to own the books. I don't really care about owning the books. Like I'll buy Kindles and all that kind of stuff, or I go to the library. But I don't like borrowing books because I suddenly feel this really intense pressure that I have to like read that book right away so I can get the book back to the owner. I just feel so bad borrowing people's books and not reading them right away. So I would just rather not borrow them. I dog ear my pages. Now I know this is something that really bothers a lot of people, and I'm actually somebody that does like to keep my books in fairly good condition, I would say. But I do dog ear my pages, and I really don't care about dog earing my pages. I don't know why, but dog earing has never bothered me. Number 3, I do not keep books that I dislike. So if I really dislike a book, even if it's like a 3-star book, which 3 stars, I can still really like the book, or I think the book is good, but I don't necessarily keep 3-star books on my shelf. Some 3 stars I'll keep on my shelf, but for the most part, I get rid of books that weren't like amazing to me. But a lot of times I will end up just donating them or giving them away. I am 100% a cover reader, but not in like the way that you would think. It's like a toxic trait of mine, and it's something that I actually don't really like about myself, and I could easily change, but for some reason I just can't change it. And I literally hate this about myself because it's like, why not read a book that you're interested in? Like, doesn't the inside of the book matter more than the cover of the book? Like, here's the thing, is there's so many like romance books that I would love to read, like Kindle Unlimited books and stuff like that, but like I cannot read them because the covers are so bad. Like any book with like some hot guy on the cover, like I can't do it. I can't take it seriously, and it annoys me so badly. Like for example, A Touch of Darkness. There's this cover and there's this cover. I guarantee you if this cover didn't exist of that book, I would not have read it. If this was the only option, wouldn't have read it. Toxic trait, I know it is, but I am a cover buyer and a cover reader to like the umpteenth degree. I love reading because I can actually follow the storylines. So I actually am not a big movie watcher, and I am not a big TV watcher, like TV shows. And it's because I can't follow the storylines. I've never been able to follow the storylines in movies ever since I was a little kid. I always thought I had like a problem. Turns out I had undiagnosed ADHD, which, surprise, surprise. But I hated watching movies because I always felt like I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't follow the characters. I feel like I have auditory processing disorder. Like I can never like follow what they're saying fast enough to like understand the plot line. Like I feel like people talk faster than I can process with movies and shows, and so I never found media that I really truly loved until I found reading, and it's because I can actually follow the storyline. Like if I don't understand something, I can go back and reread it. And I feel like a majority of the books that I read, I wouldn't watch like movies of or even TV shows of because I wouldn't be able to follow them, but because I read them, I actually enjoy them and can follow the storyline and the plot line because I read them. So I think I would have loved Twilight as a preteen, and I wish that I would have given that gift to myself, as weird as that sounds. So I love romance. I loved romance even as a kid. Like romance was one of my favorite things, and I feel like if I would have read Twilight as a preteen, I probably would have loved reading, and I probably would have ended up being an avid reader. And I wish Twilight would have existed when I was in middle school, because I guarantee you I would have been the biggest twihard ever. And am I saying that Twilight's the best? No. Am I saying that they're like phenomenally written? No. But I still think I would have been obsessed with it, and I think Twilight is one of those like book series that we can't hate on too much because I feel like it's a gateway series for young like preteen girls to really fall in love with the world of reading, and I think for me, Twilight would have been my gateway series. I am very anal about my Goodreads, and I update it all the time. Like I have to make sure that everything is updated. I have to make sure that I like update how far I've read, and I have to put all of my books in like certain folders and like certain shelves. Like everything has to be updated. I know a lot of booktubers have kind of like passed the Goodreads thing, and they're like, ew, I don't like Goodreads anymore or whatever, but like I'm not one of those people. Like I'm really anal about my Goodreads. I love receiving bookmarks as gifts. It's like one of my favorite gifts to get, but I feel like I never receive bookmarks as gifts. It's one of those things where I'm like, just buy me a bookmark. for like my birthday, and I will be happy because I just love unique bookmarks, but nobody ever buys me bookmarks. So this is a weird one and something that's very specific, but I think that this is part of the reason why sometimes I'm a slower reader, and I think that this does kind of correlate with my OCD a little bit. But when I read, like physically, I have to read every single word. Like I'm not one of those people that like can skim read and kind of like fill in the words. Like I have to read every single word, and if I don't read every single word, it bothers me. Like I can't stand it. Like if I feel like I didn't get a sentence completely like perfectly right, like I have to go back and reread it because it feels uncomfortable to me. Like sometimes I'll try to like get past it and I'll be like, Kara, it's fine, and I'll like read like a couple more pages, but then I have to like go back 2 pages and like read that sentence right. Otherwise it will bother me if I don't. Like it's so frustrating, and I hate this about myself. Like if you have OCD, you know what I mean. Like it just bugs you if you don't do it, if you don't do the thing. And for me, it's reading like every single word and making sure I get like every word read in the book. It's frustrating and it's annoying and I can't stand it. But I haven't read Harry Potter, and I haven't seen all of the movies either. I think I've seen the first 2 movies, but I can't watch the movies. Like I tried so hard to watch the movies, but they're so long, and like I said, I don't really like movies, and I never got into Harry Potter like as a kid, and because of that I've never read them, and I honestly don't really plan on reading them, if I'm being honest. Not because I don't think that they'll be good, I just don't really have a desire to read Harry Potter. So yeah, no Harry Potter for me. So when I first read ACOTAR, I pictured Amarin like this. I think it would be a really interesting video to show how you pictured certain characters in books, because I know that I picture certain characters very, very weird. Sometimes you just like put an actor onto a character while you're reading it and like that's the character, but then you look at fan art later and you're like, that's how that character looks? This is a perfect example of like picturing a character a certain way like through the entire series and then looking at fan art and realizing that you had it all wrong. I have a really hard time DNFing books, and I don't like to do it. I will DNF a book if I'm really, really early on. Like at the very beginning of the year, the first book that I read, I actually DNF'd because I was only a couple chapters in and I already could tell based on the writing style that I wouldn't like it. So I was like, nope, Kara, like this is not for you, just DNF it. And in that case, I can DNF a book pretty easily if I know very, very early on that I'm not gonna like it. But that's so, so rare. And if I'm like halfway through a book, I just can't DNF it. I have to finish it because I feel like I've already spent so much time like reading the book that I don't want to waste that time, so then I have to finish the book. So this is another one that kind of gets on my nerves, and if anybody knows how to like help me with this problem, let me know in the comments. But I always get tired when I read. I'm not one of those people that like picks up a book and like has to read until like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like if I read before bed, it makes me so gosh darn tired and it puts me to sleep. Even if I'm like really enjoying a book, like I still get so tired when I read, and it's so frustrating because sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I'm so into this and I want to keep reading it because it's so good. But like I can't because I'm so tired that I just like want to pass out. I mean, it's not a bad thing because honestly, it helps me sleep really well. Like I can go to sleep like that, like every single night because I read before bed. But sometimes I just want to read my book longer than like freaking 45 minutes because I'm so into the book, but I can't because I'll just fall asleep. I really don't like overly cluttered bookshelves. I don't like bookshelves with like lots of little like bobbleheads. You know, a few little things here and there, maybe like a plant, a little pot or something like that is kind of cute, but like too much clutter on a bookshelf like really, really, really irks me for some reason. And I like my bookshelves to be very clean, very like curated, you know, like one thing on this shelf, maybe one thing on this shelf and one thing on this shelf, and like that's all I would need. I do not care about owning special editions. I don't know what this is. You would think as somebody that loves book covers that I would like special editions, but for some reason I have zero desire to own special editions. Like once I have a book in my possession, like that's all I really need is like that book. Like it doesn't even have to be in like perfect condition either, but I really do not need multiple copies of the same book, even if it's special edition. I think the only book that I would buy a special edition of if it came out would be A Court of Mist and Fury. If I were to play the role of a book character in a movie, I always thought that I would play Elaine from A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I don't know why. Like I've always kind of related to Elaine in a weird way, and I always feel like I would play Elaine really, really well. And I've always thought like if I were to play a movie role of a character, I would play Elaine. Don't ask me why, but that's always what I've thought. The character that I relate to the most out of any book that I've ever read would be Laszlo Strange from Strange the Dreamer. I absolutely love him, and I feel like me and him are so freaking similar. And yeah, he's like me as a book character. I am a plot-driven reader over a character-driven reader person, and I used to actually think I was character-driven because I really love really developed characters. Like, I love developed characters, and I can really get into a book with highly developed characters like Taylor Jenkins Reid, Sarah J Maas. Those are both, I feel like, character-driven writers. And so I thought for a long time I was a character-driven person when it came to books, but over time I've come to realize that I'm actually not. I mean, I can really appreciate a good character, but if a book doesn't have a steady, fast-paced plot that's like really engaging, I just tend to not like it. Like, if a book is very, very focused on the characters and only the characters, I probably won't like it quite as much. Don't get me wrong, there are exceptions. I feel like Evelyn Hugo is very character-driven, and there's some books that I really love that are, but I tend to stick more towards the plot-driven type of books. I actually didn't start avidly reading until 2016, and I didn't really like reading as a kid. I read a few books, like I loved some Goosebumps. I really liked Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and I also read a few of like these Babysitter's Club books, but I didn't read all through middle school, all through elementary school, all through high school, and even into college. I didn't really read. Didn't like reading. I didn't think I would like reading, so I didn't really ever give it a try. You know, I would pick up books here and there, and I would read, like, you know, New York Times bestsellers here and there, or Haruki Murakami I really, really liked. And I've definitely gone through phases in my life of reading, but I've never been like an avid reader. And it wasn't until 2016 I had this goal to get off social media. I was on social media too much. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I kind of felt like I was constantly just picking up my phone and getting on social media, and I was like, I need to get off social media. And so this one day I was like, why don't you try reading? And so I picked up a book, and I was like, man, this is like really good. This is like really fun. I'm gonna start picking up more books. And I started picking up more books and more books and more books, and I became like an avid reader like that. And I don't know if it was just the timing in my life or what, but I wish that I would have started reading avidly sooner, because I think it's changed and made me realize a lot of things about myself as a person. The first fantasy book that I ever read was Winter Song by S.J. Jones, and I always thought that I wouldn't like fantasy. I was always like super against fantasy. I would not like it, which is interesting because I always loved kind of like fantasy whimsical things as a kid. Like Alice in Wonderland was one of my favorite movies, and I love that kind of thing. But I always thought I wouldn't be able to follow fantasy stories. But then one day I was talking about my love of Labyrinth when I did that Jareth makeup tutorial for my YouTube channel, my other channel, and somebody said, oh, have you read Winter Song by S.J. Jones? It's a Labyrinth retelling. And I was like, no, I haven't. And they're like, you need to read it. So I picked it up and I read it, and I freaking fell in love with it. It was like a romance, and it was fantasy. It was my first romance fantasy that I had ever read, and I was like, oh my god, how have I not read this before? And after that, I was like donezo. Like, romance fantasy is now one of my favorite genres, and Winter Song is what did it for me. And I don't even know if I would love that book now as much as I loved it then, but I think the reason I loved it so much then was because it was my first romance fantasy. So it was like, this is like everything. I love when I thrift a book with annotations in it. I feel like it's like finding a treasure, especially when you open it to read it and you didn't realize there were annotations in it until you start reading it. Like, oh my god, I love that so much. I literally feel like I found like a little treasure. I love cracking paperback spines. I love when paperbacks for some reason look super worn in. Like, I don't like my hardbacks to look worn in, but paperbacks, like when the spine is cracked and like a paperback looks like it's been read, like I love that. And so whenever I get a paperback, I'm just like, and I just like break it in half, and then like I fold the pages over. There's just something to me about like a really worn in paperback that is so satisfying. Pretzels are my favorite reading snack. And the reason why they're so good is because you can nibble on them and it takes a really long time to eat like one pretzel, and they don't make your fingers all sticky or dirty. Like, your fingers stay clean, so you're not gonna get it all over your book. I'm telling you guys, little pretzels are the best reading snack. I only read up to 2 books at a time. I don't like reading more than that. Sometimes I'll read 3, but usually the only time I'll ever read 3 books at a time is if the 3rd book is like a graphic novel. But I hate reading too many books at once because I will like forget what is happening in all the books that I'm reading because I'm not reading them fast enough. Like, if I take too long of a break from a book, I won't remember what's happening, and I feel very detached from the plot. Usually it's either a physical book and an audiobook, those will be the 2, or it'll be a fiction book and a non-fiction book. I actually prefer the new versions of A Court of Thorns and Roses, the covers, more than the old covers. And I know this is such an unpopular opinion because so many people love the old covers better, but I like the new covers better. I think they look more mature. I think they look less cheesy. I feel like the old covers make them look very like juvenile. But honestly, having the old covers is awesome, especially if like the series gets really, really big and like after the show and everything. Having the old covers, like I feel like the old covers are going for a lot of money on like eBay and stuff, but I do prefer the new covers better. So that is it, guys. That is my 20 to 25 random facts about me, little bookish facts. Let me know if you relate to any of these. Let me know if you do not relate to any of these, and let me know in the comments below what a really random fact is about you when it comes to books. Like, I'd be very, very curious. Like I said, I love reading random facts about people, so put as many as you want. If you want to put 20 random bookish facts about you in the comments, do that, because I will totally read them. So that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.